So let's go. Let's go. What we'll do is build a SaaS with Next.js and Superbase. I think we will finish this tutorial. We'll use a tutorial of egged.io, and we'll just build a SaaS. Period. We'll use Superbase. We'll use Next.js, and really just figure out what there is in this tutorial. Okay, let's go.
From the superbase.io website, click Start Your Project. We're going to authenticate from the superbase.io website.
Go to the superbase.io website. Okay. Two. Okay.
Website. Click Start Your Project.
Click on Start Your Project. Insert.
We're going to authenticate with GitHub.
Authenticate with GitHub.
You may need to create a new organization if you don't have one yet, and then click New Project. I'm going to call my project organization.
Okay. Let's go. Okay. Create new organization. Get.
If you don't have one yet, and then click New Project. I'm going to call my project Superbase.
Your project Superbase
SaaS. And put in a strong password.
And put a strong password. It's okay.
Now I'm going to select the region that is closest to me.
Select
and click Create New Project.
And click Create. Okay.
Now this is going to take a few minutes to set up that infrastructure. And now that that's done, I have a Superbase project with a database, auth, and storage ready to
done. Okay. Right now we have just configured our Superbase project for create the SaaS. Now it's the time we create a table. I think Superbase uses SQL-like for database, so create a table in Superbase. Let's go.
Configure. Let's head over to the table editor to create our first table. Let's click.
Okay. Go to the table editor to create your first table. Here. Table editor is here. And on this.
Click Create New Table.
Click on Create a new table.
And the name for this, head over to the table editor to create our first table. Let's click Create New Table. And the name for this one is going to be Lesson.
The name for this one is going to be Lesson.
We have some automatic generated columns for ID.
We have some automatically generated columns for ID
and created that.
And created at.
And we want to add a new column.
We want to add a new column.
For our title.
That we are called title,
which is going to be of type text, and a column for our description.
We are of type text. And a column for our description,
which will also be text.
Will also be text.
Let's click Save to create.
Now let's click Save.
Create our new table, and we can create some example lessons by clicking.
Now we can create some example lessons by clicking on Insert Row. I need to figure this out. Okay.
Insert row and filling in to create our new table, and we can create some example lessons by clicking Insert Row and filling in our title and description. And click Save to create that new record. Insert row and filling in our title and description.
Now we can fill in our title and description.
And click
and save.
Save to create that new record. And let's create another example lesson. And now we have a
and save to create a new record. Now we have two, and repeat the following. I'll repeat the following as well.
lesson table with some example data.
Now create a Next.js app with Tailwind CSS.
Let's create a Next.js project to display our lessons. We're going to use the create Next app package.
Okay.
And for our very minimal styling, we're going to use Tailwind. Now we're already in our Supabase-SaaS folder, so we can just tell it to use our current directory. Now Supabase-SaaS folder, so we can just tell it to use our current directory. And when that's finished, we can run npm run dev to start our project in development.
And type npm run dev to start our project in development mode. Good to go. Okay.
Mode, and if we navigate to localhost over port 3000, we should see our application running.
Now, if we navigate to localhost at port 3000, we should see our application running.
We can remove this boilerplate code by going to pages, index.js.
We can move the boilerplate
and removing everything other than our outermost div. And we can replace that with the text working and get rid of this unused import. And when we save, we should see that text working.
Okay. Index.js. Okay, let's go. Query data from supervisor. Query data from Superbase.
Let's display our Supabase lessons.
Okay. Let's display our lessons
In our Next.js application.
Next.js application.
The first, let's display.
Okay. Our Superbase lessons are done.
Our Supabase lessons in our Next.js.
Our Next.js application.
The first thing we need to do is install the Supabase.
Okay. You need to install packages. You need to install packages.
JS library.
So
Now let's create a file to initialize our Supabase client. We're going to
Now let's create a file to initialize.
put this in a utils. Now let's create a file to initialize our Supabase client. We're going to
Superbase client.
put this in a utils folder. Now we can import create.
You're going to put this in the utils folder.
Client from @SUS client. We're going to put this in a utils folder. Now we can import
Like this.
to initialize our Supabase client. We're going to put this in a utils folder.
Okay.
Now we can import create client from @Supabase/Supabase.js.
Now we can import create client
and export out a new variable. For our Supabase client, and this function takes two parameters. A URL and a key. So let's get those from Supabase. Let's go to, and this function takes two parameters, a URL and a key. So let's get those from Supabase client, and this function takes two parameters, a URL and a key. So let's get those from Supabase. Let's go to settings, and then parameters, a URL and a key. So let's get those from
Okay. Let's get
Supabase. Let's go to settings, and
Superbase, go to setting. Okay.
and then API.
And then up here.
And first, let's grab our URL.
And grab your URL.
And back over in our Next.js application, let's
Back in here. This application. I always come back to check it if it's still working.
create a .env .local file, and we're going to declare a variable for next_public _Supabase URL, and we're going to
Then
paste that URL from Supabase.
and paste that URL.
_Supabase URL, and we're
Okay.
going to paste that URL from Superbase. And let's do the same for our Superbase key.
Let's do
We're going to use the anon key. And now we can restart our development server.
now.
Server to read in those environment variables. Now back in our, and now we can restart our development server to read in those environment variables. Now back in our superbase.js file, we can read in those values by saying process.env.next. Next underscore public underscore superbase URL and next underscore public underscore dot superbase
by replacing I get some IDs. Okay. Replace. Okay. Learn technologies. Then if they are cost of value delivery. Speak to market. Okay. SaaS. I have some ideas like that that are coming into my head. Man, gee. Learn a new technology. As cost of lower per speed to market higher. Yes. Then yes. Okay.
.js file, our development server, to read in those environment variables. Now back in our superbase.js file, we can read in those values by saying process.env.next underscore public underscore superbase URL and next underscore public underscore superbase underscore key. And now we can import underscore key. And now we can import our Superbase client in our index.
Now you import your Superbase.
.js file, let's go key. And now we can import our Superbase client in our index.js file and start querying our database. Now, because this lesson
Now you can say
data is entirely public, we can tell Next.js and start querying our database. Now, because this lesson data is entirely public, we can tell Next.js that it can start querying our database. Now, because this lesson data is entirely public,
okay. Because this lesson
we can tell Next.js that it can pre-render this at build time by exporting out a get static props function. We can tell Next.js that it can pre-render this at build time by exporting out a get static props function. And here we can use the Superbase client to query all of
here you can use
the lessons from the lesson table. We also declare which columns we would like to select.
Okay.
The lesson table. We also declare which columns we would like to
We also declare
select. So in this case, we lesson table. We also declare which columns we would like to select. So in this case, we want all of the columns. And this is going to give us back some data. And this will be a collection of all of our lessons.
And this will be collection.
Which we can then read data. And this will be a collection of all of our lessons. Give us back some data. And this will be a collection of all of our lessons. Which we can then return as our props.
Then we return it as our props.
Which will pass it into our component.
Then we into our component.
And we can console log out our lessons.
We can so
Here to see what this contains.
see.
Now when we refresh our application and open the console, we'll see that we have our array of lessons coming from Superbase. So let's iterate over our array of lessons and display them in our web app. We can say lessons.
So now true of listen and display line 7
dot map over each lesson. And for each of those lessons, we want to render a paragraph tag with the lesson's title. We also want to set a key on our paragraph tag to be lesson.id. And when we save, we'll see those lessons are displaying in our web app with
display
data being loaded from our Superbase database.
with data. Use Next.js to query a single workout from Superbase. Use Next.js to query single workout from Superbase.
We want to be able to click one of our lessons and go to another page.
Click one of this lesson and go to page
that displays more details of that lesson, such as the description. Let's start off by making these go to another page that displays more details of that lesson, such as the description. Let's start
for the lesson.
off by making these link another page that displays more details of that lesson, such as the description. Let's start off by making these links. We're going to import
Let's
the
going to
link component from next slash link
yeah.
and replace our paragraph tag with that link component and the
Replace paragraph tag
href for our link is going to go to slash and then our lesson ID.
The href for our link. Update the href for our link.
We then need to
Okay. How I say it. Let's make a quick page dynamic. Okay. Web page. Page. Routing. Yes. Routing. Dynamic. Static. And tags. Tags. Tags.
wrap our lesson title in an A tag. Let's also
Let's wrap our lesson A tag. So if it's okay, so sometimes I get it now.
add a little bit of magic styling to make this look a little nicer, and also on our anchor tag. Much better. And now when we click one of our lessons, also on our anchor tag.
Add a little bit of styling.
Much better. And now when we click one of our lessons, we will go to our anchor tag. Much better. And
Now when we click one of our lesson,
now when we click one of our lessons, we will go
go to of our.
to its details page. And we're getting a 404 because we haven't created that yet. For this, we want to use
This is the detailed page.
a dynamic route, which we can do by saying square brackets,
We need to create a dynamic page which we can do.
ID, and then closing square brackets, .js.
This can okay.
Yes. And so our component will now be passed this lesson ID.
So now the components will be passed this lesson. Okay. Okay. Request. Okay. So, que je peux c'est tous les outils utiles au digital marketing. Pour Okay.
As a parameter called ID. So let's build out our component. Let's build out our component. Lesson ID as a parameter called ID. So let's build out our component.
Okay. So that's
And now we see the text lesson details appearing on the page for both of our lessons. Now we also want to pre-render each of these lessons appearing on the page. And now we see the text lesson details appearing on the page for both of our lessons. Now we also want to pre-render each of these lesson details appearing on the page. And now we see the text lesson details appearing on the page.
that's page.
For both of our lessons. Now we also want to pre-render each of these lesson details pages at build time, so we need to tell Next.js a list of want to pre-render each of these lesson details pages at build time, so we need to tell Next.js a list of possible paths with the getStaticPaths function. And so we need to import our Superbase client again to make the paths function. Build time, so we need to tell Next.js a list. We also want to pre-render each of these lesson details pages at build time, so
We want to pre-render each of
we need to tell Next.js. Now we also want to pre-render each of these lesson details pages at build time, so we need
lesson details pages at build time.
to tell Next.js a list of possible paths with the getStaticPaths function.
So we need to tell JS list path. Okay. So is it the same function that was on the query? No, it's get static props. Get static paths. Okay, it's kind of complex.
And so we need to import our Superbase client again to make a request for all of those lessons. And similarly, we need to import our Superbase client again to make a request for all of those lessons. And similar to our previous example, we're going to query Superbase for all of the lessons. And this time, we only care about this example. We're going to query Superbase, make a request for all of those lessons. And similar to our previous example, we're going to query Superbase for all of the lessons. And
Query Superbase.
this time, we only care about the ID column. Superbase for all of the lessons. Only this time, we only care about the ID column. And we can then iterate over each of those lessons, and we can pull out the ID field and just return an object with the key params, which is another object with the key ID set to a stringified version of our ID. And so that's going to give us back a list of all of our possible paths, which we can then return from this function. We also want to set fallback to false, which just means that our users try to navigate to
and then return.
an ID that doesn't exist. They'll just see the back to false, which just means that our users try to
We also which means
navigate to an. We also want to set fallback to false, which just means that our users try to navigate to an ID that doesn't exist. They'll just see the 404 page. Now we can declare
when the user tries to navigate ID doesn't exist. Play. Okay.
declare our getStaticProps function, which will be called for each of our possible paths. And this will automatically be passed that props function, which will be called for each of our possible. Just see the 404 page. Now we can declare our getStaticProps function, which will be called for each of our possible paths. And this will automatically be passed that params object, which will have the ID that we care about. And this will automatically be getStaticProps function, which will be called for each of our possible paths.
Okay. Okay. Now we can declare the getStaticProps function that will be called for each possible path.
And this will automatically be passed that params object, which will
It will be passed. Object, okay.
will have the ID that we care about. And now we can make another request to Superbase to get the data for that particular lesson. And so we can say superbase.fromLesson, select all the columns, but only where superbase.fromLesson, select all the columns, but only where the ID column matches the ID that we were passed as a parameter. And since we're only expecting to get one row back, we can chain on .single, which is just going to give us that individual lesson. Now we can return our ID that we were passed as a parameter. And since we're only expecting to get one row back, we can chain on .single, which is just going to give us that individual lesson.
Okay, it's just a way to query Superbase. I don't know the specific, but
now we can
Twitch again on Twitch.
Return our props object, and we need to remember to export that function from our component. And
then we return our props object. And 5. Remember to export this function. Our component.
now when we save and refresh our application, we won't see anything visually, but that lesson is now being passed into our component, and we can log it out visually, but that lesson is now being save and refresh our application. We won't see anything visually.
Now, if we refresh, now if we save and refresh, we will not see anything visually.
But that lesson is now being passed into our component, and we can log it out here.
And we can console.log it.
And there's our specific lesson for ID number 2. And so now let's display our lesson details on the page. We want to display a H1 for our...
Now let's display it on the page.
Our lesson's title, and a paragraph for our description. And again, we can add some magic styling. And now we have a list of each of our lessons, and we're able to
now we have a list of each of our lessons.
click into each one to see more details.
Click each one to see detail. You play enter party authentication item
Currently, our application displays public data. If we want to add, currently our application displays public
okay.
data. If we want to add some additional information for our subscribed users, we're going to need them to authenticate. If we want to add some additional information for us subscribed users, we're going to need them to authenticate with our application. Now I'm going to have my users sign in with GitHub, but Superbase does offer us a collection of third-party logins. Let's head over to GitHub and go to our user settings. And now we want a collection of third-party logins. Now I'm going to have my user for our subscribed users. We're going to need them to authenticate with our application. Now I'm going to have my users sign in with GitHub, but Superbase does offer us a collection of third-party logins.
Okay. I'm going to have my application login with GitHub, but Superbase first order the login.
Logins. Let's head over to GitHub and go to our user settings.
GitHub. Let's make users.
And now we want to scroll down and click developer settings.
Settings.
Settings. We want to select OAuth apps and create a new OAuth app. And click developer settings. We want to select OAuth app.
Select. Credentials. Partie. Comment couper telle chose avec telle chose. On va couper tout dessus. Okay.
Apps and create a new scroll down and click developer setting GitHub and go to our user settings. And now we want to scroll down and click developer settings. We want to select OAuth apps and create a new OAuth app. I'm going to keep. We want to select OAuth apps and create a new OAuth app. Developer settings. We want to select OAuth apps. And create a new OAuth app. I'm going to keep the name of our application consistent, so Superbase SaaS, and then
Okay. Now, fill in the blanks. Okay. I think it will be over for the stream. See you. Thank you for everything.